Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here for Joyrider TV, live from the Wildwind Workshop once again. Apologies about last week's live Q&A session that didn't happen. That's because I had an absolute internet meltdown and couldn't get connected at all. So if you haven't seen one of these before, what I'm going to be doing is answering people's questions. There are people watching this live. Live is at 5:30 Greek time on Friday the 23rd. If you're watching this later on, then I won't be able to answer your questions in the video, but I will respond in the comments and perhaps reply to your question next week in the video if I can't respond to your question in the comments. I've got a live studio audience once again. I've got Joost and I've got Barry in the studio. They're lucky enough to be out here at Wildwind Sailing Holidays in Vasiliki this week. Champagne sailing conditions are doing well. Okay, just checking in with everybody who's checking in. Hello, Mike. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, E1K in Brittany. Okay, I was sailing my 2003 Hobie 16 upwind when suddenly, some drama here, the wire that holds the jib at the top broke. Hopefully the part holding the mast don't snap. Yeah, that's what you call a pigtail. That short wire, depending on the age of your boat, is how that wire would be. Let's just so what you have, this is the bit that attached to the mast, so we're making the wire look really big. And then what you have is you have your forestay, which would be like this, and then also coming off this wire here there's a short bit. And those short bits on the wires are what Hobie Cat called pigtails. And onto there, that is where your jib halyard goes, which, of course, hoists your jib. All right, the drawing went a little bit off scale there. I think you might have noticed. But that, so if the pigtail breaks, then your mast isn't likely to fall down because the forestay should still be intact. So there we go. I know that wasn't even a question. It was just a statement, but I thought I'd steam in, just warming up. You know, it's early days. Okay, Tim in Clearwater, Florida. Looking forward to some champagne sailing next week. Yeah, I believe Tim will be joining us on Thursday, maybe Friday next week, all the way from Florida. Barry is from Daytona Beach, Florida. He's been having a lovely time, so much so that he's extended his stay twice, I believe. Yeah, and why not? Okay, E1K. So I managed to get back safe with the main, but wondering if too much jib tension could have broken it, or is it just because of the boat's age? Yeah, it's unlikely to be that you put too much tension on the jib. The most likely explanation is because of the age of the forestay and pigtail combination there. I would usually recommend replacing your standing rigging. That is the rigging that holds the mast up. I think if you're buying rigging from Hobie Cat directly, I think I was saying every 3 years, but I think every 4 years is safe. Maybe 5 at a push if you want to roll the dice. Yeah, so replace your rigging at least every 5 years, especially the stuff that holds the mast up. Chug Slayer 69, hello. Thanks for coming. Tom, came across your channel by chance. Sometimes that's what happens. Just picked up my first Cat Hobie 14 Turbo. Nice. Thanks to how fun and enjoyable you've made it all look. I didn't make it look fun and enjoyable. It is as fun and enjoyable as it looks. All I was doing was connecting the dots. But thanks anyway. Hello, Stephen. Hello, Chris. Ollie Smith's on board from the Wildwind Beach. So one of the main catamaran instructors here. Chris, remember new spinnaker question. Okay, remember my spinnaker question. Let's just see if I've got that in the preloaded questions here. So I just have to check the name, Chris. Yes. All right. Yes. So I actually had, we've got 10 preloaded questions this week. That's because I missed last week. If you're watching this because you've asked a preloaded question or because you're interested and you'd like to know when the different questions are going to be answered, then just have a look in the description. And by this time tomorrow, which might be when you're watching it, I will have indexed all of the questions so you can just look at what time those questions are being answered. Okay, so Chris asks, how to trim your spinnaker? Last weekend we had a race, just 10 knots of wind, but you had the feeling that it was pulled in way too tight. I hear some people about a folding front tip. Do you have any experience? Yes, I do. Okay, so the most important thing when trimming the spinnaker, and when we're talking about trimming the spinnaker, we're talking about pulling it in, letting it out on the sheet. So unlike the jib, the spinnaker doesn't have a cleat on it because it needs to be moving in or out a lot of the time, because with the changes in speed in the boat and with the changes in speed in the wind direction, the likelihood of it being in the perfect position for very long is pretty slim. So the thing that is going to slow your boat down the most is having the spinnaker in too tight. So yes, Chris, I think your theory was perhaps correct that maybe you had the spinnaker in too tight if you felt like you were sailing with the brakes on. John Bishop says, pull it until it feels good. That is, of course, John Bishop from the John Bishop Skateboarding Emporium. Good to have you on board. John Bishop was also the best man at my wedding. Incidentally, didn't know that. There you are. Yeah, check out John's channel if you like this method of delivery and skateboarding. There you go. But yeah, so very important not to have it in too tight. The way to determine if it's more like you're checking if it's too loose. So if this is the spinnaker like this, something like that, this is the spinnaker sheets tied on here, then what you want to be doing all the time as the spinnaker trimmer is always be letting it out, just watching the front edge here. So this would be at the end of the bowsprit. And what you're looking for is just for that front edge to start to curl. And when it curls, that means it's just a little bit too loose. So then you pull it back in. And then what you do is you let it back out till it curls a little bit. And then you pull it back in. So the spinnaker needs to be moving in or out pretty much all of the time if you want to get it in the perfect spot. So especially if you're racing, this is very important. Yeah, so definitely let it out. So thanks very much there for the question, Chris. Hope that was a satisfactory answer. I thought it answered the question anyway. Hello, James. Good to have you on board. Hello, Jerome. Or this is nice to see you at the desk, even if you're better on the Hobie 16. Oh, yes. Or promoting a new pair of shoes, perhaps. They are currently out of stock, the new shoes, but I'm informed reliably the new shoes will be coming into stock. Very, very comfortable. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a video that came out yesterday. Tom hasn't had the chance to get it out yet. That'd be the 14 that he's just bought. Right. Thanks to lockdowns here in Australia. Unlucky. Yeah, hopefully you'll be released soon. All right, we've got Chris on board. checking in from Idaho. He's got a 1986 Hobie 14. Recently added a Catalina 22 to his fleet. He's learned almost everything he knows about sailing from Joyrider TV. Thanks. It's nice to know that people are paying attention and learning some stuff from this stuff that I'm putting out. We've got Rob in South Africa. Hello, Rob. How's it, brew? Mike says, hi, Joe. We have a question or even maybe a video suggestion. We've got a Hobie 16 and want to know how to drill. Oh, you'd like this, Barry. What position the holes have to be in the new rudder blades. Wow. Okay, Mike, we'll have to elaborate on that a little bit. So if your new rudder blades haven't already got holes in, this is quite odd, unless you've had a boat builder build you some rudder blades and they don't have holes in, then I would say this is the short version of the video. It's quite an unusual thing because usually your rudder blades would already be drilled with the holes in. But if they're not drilled, what I would do is take an old rudder blade, clamp the two together so they're perfectly lined up, and then very carefully take a drill. It's going to take some confidence and some commitment, but that is what I would go for. Yeah. I don't think there's
bit of masking tape on the one underneath. Just spot it with a full size drill.
All right. So here we go. Barry, who's an engineer, he says put a bit of masking tape on the rudder blade underneath, the one without holes, and just spot it with the full size drill. That will give you a center. And then remove the other rudder blade and continue drilling, making sure you're drilling it straight. If you're not drilling it straight, you're going to have steering problems for the whole life of that rudder blade. There we go. It's good we've got the experts in. Are you an engineer as well, yes?
I'm not.
Okay, just, yeah, that's all right. One engineer is enough.
Oh,
yeah, crikey. All right. All right, James says, oh, this is a big one. James won his first sailing regatta last week at the summer camp. Woohoo! Great work there, James. All right, we've got Nick F. Any tips on having more fun in light wind? Hobie 18, how to go faster flying a hull. Yeah, what you can do in lighter wind, yeah, definitely flying a hull is a great way of having more fun in the lighter wind. If you want to encourage the hull to fly, firstly, make sure you're not sat too far back on the boat. If you sit too far back on the boat, you drag the sterns, you're raking the mast back as well. Everything you're doing is going to mean you're going to have less power. By dragging the sterns, you're also going to be slowing the boat down, and you're not going to be getting the same amount of apparent wind, which means you're not going to be generating as much power. So have the trim of the boat perfect, which means, as we might have said before, this is our catamaran hull. It's very accurate drawing, and the catamaran hull is flat. So we're looking at it and it's totally flat, not down at the front, not down at the back, totally flat. That is how you're going to be going fastest, generating the most apparent wind. That extra apparent wind is going to give you more power, and that should allow you to pop the hull up. If the wind is really, really light, then the best way of having more fun is perhaps taking a loved one with you, maybe a few drinks, some tunes, a fishing rod or a book, something like that. Or just accept in the light winds that it's not going to be particularly exciting. So if you've got that kind of expectation, then you're not going to be disappointed. But to get the hull flying, and if it's not quite windy enough, just start shuffling in towards the middle of the trampoline, making sure that you've still got full control over the boat, and that should make it more fun. All right, we got Mike in East Germany. Nice to have you on board, Mike. I believe that's Mike, who we saw and show us your cat with the Hurricane 5.9 in the reeds. All right. Oh, we've got a shoe review coming in from Nick F. He used his Xero shoes Colorados for the first time over the weekend. Very comfortable, he says. Right, hold on, 2 shakes. We're talking shoes. As soon as we're talking shoes, you know, it's what I'm into at the moment. This is the Xero shoes Colorado. Very nice, practical, multi-purpose, hard-wearing, good grip, very robust. And when you tuck this under your tiller arm of your 16 in the Joyrider TV position, you feel quite well protected. Very nice. But one downside, reasonably expensive. Okay, the one I did the review on yesterday, this is the Aleader. It's got a fairly ambiguous name on the website. It's called the Men's Mesh Barefoot Water Shoe. Ridiculously comfortable. It's like wearing slippers. Amazing grip. Very good. These ones are cheaper. I'm not trying to promote one over the other. I love my Xeros, but these are a bit cheaper. But this mesh doesn't give you the same level of protection and isn't going to last as long. But if you would sail barefoot, but you've got a rocky beach to contend with or something, these would be a good option. Check out yesterday's video. There we go. We can do that, can't we? Yeah, I think that'll make somebody happy out there. All right. Bullthrush, hello. All right, Tom. We've got Tom on board. How are you doing? Not too bad, thanks. I was sailing a Hobie cat recently. We made a nosedive twice. Oh, juicy. How does it happen and how to prevent it? Okay, the nosedive, otherwise known as the pitchpole, is basically when you're overloading the front of the boat. This might sound quite obvious. So while I've still got this picture here, the first and perhaps most obvious way to prevent the nosedive or pitchpole is get further back on the boat. There we go. If we've got 2 people on the boat, we want to be right at the back, like that. And by getting further back, we are going to be levering the bow of the boat up. That is tip number 1 to avoid the nosedive. Tip number 2 to avoid the nosedive is ease the jib off. If the jib is absolutely cranked, especially if it's on a 16 or a boat that's got a reasonably powerful jib, such as any of the Hobie 20s, the Hobie 18 Classic, that's got a monster jib. If you've got that bad boy in too tight, that is going to pull the bows down, making it more likely that you nosedive. It is. It's a fact. It's just a fact. That's all.
I experienced it.
Oh,
Yeah.
how many times?
3 times.
3 times
Slow learner.
this week
No, 3 years
in
ago.
total.
It's the one thing I haven't done. I've done every other capsize apart from that. So.
Okay, so Yost has capsized by pitch poling. Barry has done all the other capsizes, but not the pitch pole. There's still time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let the jib off a bit. And then the other one is the mainsail. The obvious thing to say is let the mainsail out a bit. But if you've got the main sheet really, really loose, your mainsail is a bit out of control. It's like just having a big bag up there, which will do whatever it wants. It will just respond to the wind and it will change shape a certain amount if you haven't got much tension in the main sheet. So you want to have the main sheet quite tight as a standard position for your main. But if by doing that, it drives the bows down or your hull comes up really high, what that means is you should then let the traveller out to allow you to pull the main sheet in a bit tighter. If you see any of the videos where I'm doing these fast, broad reaches, you'll see I've got the main sheet in a lot, but to be able to do that, I'm letting the traveller out quite a lot. So it's a balance there. But if you're sailing along and the boat's level, you get a gust and the bows start to go down, then let the main sheet off immediately. Usually just an arm's length is enough to prevent the bows from going under. But yeah, it takes a bit of experience. But in order to be able to let the main sheet off quickly in the gusts, make sure that if you are reaching or broad reaching, every time you pull it in like that, if it's windy, that's followed by uncleating it, that action. Probably like a drummer. Yeah. Yeah, so there we go. All right, cheers, Tom. Hope that helps. Hope that helps. All right, we've got somebody in a place that write letters that I don't understand. Says, did you grow up in Greece? No, I grew up in the UK. I did my sailing on the east coast of England, but I've been living in Greece now for 8 years full time and 26 years just the summers. Okay, so we're going to head over to some preloaded questions now. Thanks. Oh, we're on top chat, not all chat, I think. All right, hold on. I'm just trying to get onto the right chat. What's this chat? Live chat. Okay, live chat is the same as top chat. I just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed anything. All right, so the next preloaded question. This is a good one, actually. This is related to the previous question and one of the previous questions. So this is from Jan Leo, who says, I'm about to put a gennaker, which in my language, that's another name for an asymmetric spinnaker, on my Dart 18. How would I recover if the bow starts to dig in at the front? Ooh, juicy. Okay, so when you introduce the spinnaker into the equation, I'm going to call it a spinnaker just out of habit. Of course, we're going to have the weight at the back. The jib isn't, especially on a Dart 18, isn't really going to have much of an influence there. So don't worry about the jib. The mainsail, if you're sailing in wind strong enough with the spinnaker, where you're worried about sticking the nose in, very important that the mainsail is pulled in as tight as you physically can. This may sound counterintuitive, but if you don't pull the main sheet in really tight, as well as it's slowing the boat down a bit because you'll be creating drag by having the sail out too much, you also risk breaking your mast. So if on our drawing, we're using the same drawing throughout at the moment, the main sheet is going to be pulling the top of the mast this way, back and down, which is going to give you the support that you need for the mast. The worst thing, if we just continue down this line of the mast, the worst thing you can possibly do with the spinnaker up when it's windy is if the bows dig in, if you were to then release the main sheet, letting it out, all of that, when the bows dig in, the boat is going to slow down massively, which is going to create a load more pressure in the rig. And if you let the main sheet out, all of that extra pressure is going to be taken by the top of the mast. So if it's a lot of extra pressure, the top of the mast might just snap off, and that might help you save the pitch pole, but I don't think that's the intention here. Okay, so main sheet cranked. and it should stay in cranked the whole time unless it's not so windy. All right, so let's rub these guys out. They've had their fun. All right, so this is actually going to be a combo answer as well. We're going to come on to our next preloaded question, but this is also in reference to Jan Leo's question. Okay, I hope everybody can handle the dual question answering simultaneously. So the other question we're going to answer at the same time, this is from Bostian, who says, if going downwind like crazy, super fast, strong wind, travelers already fully out, both sheets loosened, this is obviously without a spinnaker up, how can you further reduce power for a gybe or to come upwind again? Here we go. So although Bostian's situation is different here because he doesn't have the spinnaker up, both things have the same answer, and that is to sail as fast as possible. Speed is your friend. So in both situations, we're kind of sailing in this direction. Of course, the wind always coming from the top of the board. That's how it works. All right. So sailing as fast as possible is always going to help you not capsize on the downwind leg every time. Because if we look at the pressure that is at work, if we're sailing along downwind, let's say we're sailing at 20 knots. Let's say the wind is 25 knots. Then that means, very roughly in a non-scientific way, we have got something in the vicinity of 5 knots of pressure trying to make the boat capsize. So that's extra 5 knots in the rig that's trying to force the bows down, whether you've got a spinnaker up or not. So just 5 knots of pressure trying to force the bows down, which means the faster we go, the less pressure there is. If we're trying to sail slowly downwind, so let's say we're doing 10 knots, then that means we've got 15 knots of pressure trying to force the bows down or make us capsize. So by sailing as quickly as possible, that is how we are going to not stick the nose in. So as we're sailing along, we're just talking downwind sailing, spinnaker or no spinnaker, it's the same. If we get a gust of wind, maybe the hull starts to lift a little bit, or maybe the bows start to go in. Firstly, with the spinnaker, most likely, if you get hit by a gust, the hull will lift. As the hull lifts, we're just going to turn a little bit more downwind. Very nice. That is going to mean we actually go faster and we'll have less pressure trying to make us capsize. But as we bear off downwind a little bit more, we're not going to touch the mainsail. Main sheet is going to stay in the same position. But what you can do, if you're worried about the pressure on the bows of the boat, the crew can just ease an armful of spinnaker sheet as we bear away, and that will just take a little bit of the pressure off. And then once we're onto our new course, then the crew should go back to trimming the spinnaker as we spoke about before. If you're sailing with 2 sails on the downwind and you get a gust of wind, then this is where it's most different, is as you bear away, ease an armful of main sheet as you bear off. That is going to take the pressure off the bows as you turn that corner. And then once you're on your new course, as long as the bows aren't driving down, you can then start bringing the main sheet in again. Are we into this?
Yeah.
Okay, so when is, in answer to Bostian's question, when is the best time to jibe? How do we jibe when it's really windy? Well, we're sailing along, as we often do. We get hit by a gust. We turn more downwind. And then once that gust eases back a little bit, and we almost feel like the boat is kind of freewheeling, so it's got the speed, but without the pressure, that's the time to bang it into the jibe. Because our normal downwind sailing angle might be a bit higher, which means to get through, or let's say the actual moment when the boom jibes is when we just get to just past dead downwind. So the angle from there to there is much greater than the angle from here to there, which means by the time we get to the point when the boom comes across, if we're not bearing off first on a gust, that turning downwind, we're going to be slowing down. And as we've just talked about, as we slow down, the rig is going to load up with more pressure, meaning when the boom comes across, if we're going from here, it's going to slam across really hard, making for a much more lively jibe and much more of a chance of sticking the nose in and time for a swim. There we go. Speed is your friend. Yeah, the capsize on the jibe is quite a common one. If you want to really sort out your jibes in heavy wind while we're sailing holidays, we can help you. That was good. Does that answer both of those questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And just the last part of Boss Jan's question, what about when you want to head up? Okay. So when you want to head up from sailing on the broad reach, loads of wind, everything out, is as long as everything is out, as you turn up, when you get to this point, the beam reach is the most powered up point of sail because the wind is hitting the sails side on. So if you're heading up from downwind to upwind, you've just got to keep going through the beam reach. One thing that is quite popular, let's say, is if you're a bit scared, when you get to the beam reach, you'll feel that power come on and you'll go, oh, and maybe you'll turn back downwind or stop turning, and then you'll get more scared. It's a vicious circle of fear. Whereas if you get to the beam reach and you just push through, then you'll get to the upwind, and then it will feel very much that the power's coming off. And as we know, on the upwind, it's very easy to lose the power by turning more into the wind thus. So there we go. I think that is answering those two questions there. Hopefully that was satisfactory. I thought it was pretty strong, actually. Yeah.
The scary bit, like I say, is that full broad reach. It is for seconds, isn't it? But it comes on so strong that you think, Jesus, this is going to run away, and you just keep going with it, and then it tails off as quick as it comes. Yeah.
So what Barry's saying is you've just got to have that commitment to keep heading up through the beam reach, and then you're
First time ever.
Okay, we've got another question coming on the live. Any tips for buying a used monohull? There are quite a few. I would say just look at every part of the boat. If you check out the buying a used Hobie 16 video, you can apply that to any type of boat to a certain degree. Like when you look at the sails, look at the quality of the sails and think, what is it going to cost? If it's quite an inexpensive boat, what is it going to cost either to get these repaired or replaced, or how long do we think the sails are going to last? Same thing, the ropes. Are we going to have to replace many of the ropes? How much is that going to cost? And then maybe have a little running tally of what you're going to have to spend on the boat. And then maybe when you get to that total, like there might also be, when was the rigging last replaced? Am I going to have to replace the rigging? How much is that going to cost? And just add that to the tally. What else are we going to have to replace? The trolley wheels. Something like Ricky Nielsen. Yes, fastest man in Vasiliki. Yeah, what are we going to have to replace or repair? Has the hull got any soft spots? Massive. If it's got soft spots, that is really probably, unless you're really into boat repairs or you know someone who is, that could be a real warning signs. Let's not buy it, because soft spots can be repaired, but if it's a large section of the hull which is soft, which means if you push it, it goes in and out quite easily. Warning signs. Yeah. And then see how much money you're likely to have to spend on the boat, and then go back to wherever it is your source of finding the used boats, and add that price to the purchase price of the boat and see what you could get for that plus that. I think. What does the boat come with? Does it come with a road trailer, a launching trolley, maybe some buoyancy aids, trapeze harness, case of beers, extra sails, yeah, spare tiller extension.
Look at as many as possible, and then you can weigh up. Just keep looking.
There we go. Some very wise words from Barry. Look at as many boats as possible. Cast a very broad net, because there might actually be a type of boat that you're not even thinking about that's for sale. And when you look at it, it's just like, oh, of course. Yeah. All right. We've got Tim. Hello, Tim. We've got Jeff M. Nakra. All right. This is a good one. Jeff says, could you explain how to work the diamond wire tension? Tomorrow we race again in Hong Kong. Cheers. All right. So the diamond wires. Yeah, if you're not familiar with diamond wires, you'll find diamond wires on all F18 catamarans, Hobie 18 classics, Tornadoes, Hurricane 5.9s, Prindle 18.2s, Prindle 19s, and the list goes on. And a lot of the Nakras, as I'm sure Jeff is experiencing. So what the diamond wires are is we've got, of course, the mast like that. And on these most likely bigger and more performance catamarans, what we can do to a certain degree is put pre-bend into the mast. So this would be our mast in its resting state. And then we can actually make it so the mast has got a certain amount of curve to it before we even put the mainsail up. Now, what that pre-bend does, just to really put it into the most simple terms, is the more bend we put into the mast, the more it's going to flatten the sail, and it's going to be more suitable with more pre-bend for either lighter teams or stronger winds. Because when we've got stronger winds, or if you're lighter, you want to have a flatter sail. The reason this works is because if you imagine your mainsail, the front edge of the mainsail is going to, let's say, is pretty much straight. Let's say it's cut with a slight curve in the front. If we then put that curved edge against a straight edge, that is going to put the most, it's kind of like if you make a cone, maybe. You're going to put the most amount of curve into the sail like this, looking from above. Whereas if we're putting that curved edge up against a curved mast, it's going to give us a much flatter sail making the boat much easier to manage in the strong winds. Very nice. Yeah, and also the other thing which makes it beneficial to have more pre-bend if it's windy is by having the mast already bent, it makes it much, much easier to pull on more downhaul. More downhaul, of course, is going to help to flatten the sail further in the strong winds. So in the strong winds, if you're sailing upwind, very important to pull the downhaul on as hard as you physically can, because that is going to flatten the mainsail. So more pre-bend, better. All right, so having said that, let's look at the nuts and bolts of how we actually go about that. We'll go back to the original picture. So we've got what's called the spreaders, which are these parts about, what would that be? About a third of the way up the mast, perhaps. If we look at the spreaders from the top, they would usually be like a, nothing like that. Yeah. Let's just say the spreaders are like that. There's the mast. And then, of course, we've got one on the other side. Now, along with the spreaders, we've got the diamond wires. Called that because they're shaped like a diamond. Now, two ways of altering the pre-bend. We can either adjust the angle of the spreaders. So if this is the front of the mast, this is the back, here's the mast track just here. If we put the spreaders further back, of course, when we move the spreaders, we want to be moving them equally on both sides. Otherwise, the mast's going to have a funny shape. If we put the spreaders further back, what that is going to do is the diamond wires are going to be pushing on the spreaders, pushing this part, which is here, this part of the mast forwards, which is going to be putting that pre-bend into the mast. Okay, if we have the spreaders more in line with the mast, so not going backwards, what that is going to do is give us a very straight and very stiff mast. So that's better for heavier teams or lighter winds. So what you want to do with your spreaders, you set the spreaders to the weight of the team. We're getting scientific now, I think. Okay, I'm into this question, by the way, Jeff. It's a juicy one that we haven't had before. So if, again, we look here, we have what we call spreader rake, which is the angle of the spreaders in relation to the mast. And then what we want to do is measure the spreader rake and have a look on the rig tuning guide for the type of boat that you're sailing. Each boat would have a rig tuning guide which will say all the numbers, and it will say how much spreader rake you should put on your boat depending on the weight of the team. The way to measure it is we're going to put a straight line like a batten. That's exactly what I was looking for. All right, little degree of accuracy here. This is the straightest line I've ever drawn, I think. We'll put a straight line between the tips of the spreaders, and then we're going to measure the distance between the trailing edge of the mast and that straight line, and that is how we measure our spreader rake. Okay, so that is number one, but you'll need to check the rig tuning guide for the type of boat that you're sailing, and so the spreader rake is according to your weight. All right, and then the diamond wire tension that is according to the wind strength. So in lighter winds, because, okay, just to backpedal a little bit, the reason we're setting the spreaders to the crew weight is because adjusting the spreaders isn't something that you can do when you're out on the water. It is quite time consuming to do it, but the diamond wires we can adjust in most boats while we're out on the water if we're really going for it. And the diamond wires we adjust according to the crew, the wind strength. The stronger the wind, the tighter the diamond wires are going to be. So if it's a lighter wind, loosen off your diamond wires a bit. That'll put more shape into the mainsail, giving you more oomph and power. There we go. All right, I think we'll stop there on that one. Thanks very much. We're just going to take a short commercial break. For those who are watching later on, if you're watching now, it's not going to be a commercial break at all. Okay. Now, okay, thanks very much, Jeff. I just saw your response there. Lovely. All right, I think I'm going to go on to another preloaded question before we go on to more of the live ones, if that's okay. So I've got quite a few preloaded questions. And in fact, if that's okay, unless you've got something that is an absolutely burning concern, if you could hold any further questions, because we're up to over 45 minutes now, and I've got a lot of preloaded questions to go through. So the next one is from Martin in Holland. He says he's about to buy a catamaran, which most of the time he's going to sail solo. He's about 95 kilograms. Is it doable to put the boat upright single-handed? And it comes with a big wheel cat track launching trolley. Is it doable to put it on the track and pull it for 100 meters on the beach alone? Okay, first one is it depends on what sort of boat, but let's say industry standard Hobie 16. That would be a very good choice if you're going to be mostly sailing solo, 95 kilograms, and you like having fun. Good choice. Firstly, the launching trolley or cat track question. Could you wheel it 100 meters on your own? I would say yes, but what you have to consider is how steep is it to get the boat out of the water, or what the surface is. Is it quite a rocky place where you're going to be pulling it out, or is it quite smooth slope, maybe a grass bank or a concrete slipway? Now that would be ideal and quite easy. Yeah, so those are the things to consider there. But to wheel a Hobie 16 is about 140 kilograms. So on a good launching trolley, that should go quite easily, especially if you keep your tires inflated nicely. Now, with the can you right the boat single-handed, that basically depends on the amount of wind that you're out sailing in. If you saw the final jumping off the boat video, which I put out earlier this week, you will have seen that I pulled the boat up easily on my own. Is that me? No. Okay, no worries. I've got the same ringtone. Yeah, so you'll have seen that I pulled up the boat quite easily on my own, single-handed, because it was really windy, about 25 knots. If you capsize in less wind than 25 knots, then you might need some assistance. And the assistance that I'd recommend is the righting bag. With a righting bag, you can pull the boat up single-handed, because you in zero wind when you haven't got the wind to help. So the righting bag, what you want is about 120, 130 kilograms. Then you could bring up the boat in any amount of wind. Doesn't matter how light it is. So you need to have a righting bag which can carry, if you're 95 kilos, the math says about 25 kilograms, and then that's enough weight to bring up the boat in no wind at all. There you go. Hope that was helpful. Very good. Nice question. And good luck with your new boat, Martin. All right. Next one. We've got Yan P. Hello, Yan. Will you make a video about the FX1 which you converted for a 2-man crew? Yes, I think we should.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, we're in.
Great boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you been sailing it this week?
Yeah.
Yo's been sailing it and he's a fan. Let's do it. We've just got one of the factory specification FX12s from back in around 2003 or something, but we can certainly have a look at that. Good choice. Okay, we've got Bill on board. Hello, Bill. All right, Bill says, I raised the Hobie 16 main with off to the side and can't get the rope past the fork at the top of the mast. It comes up about an inch short. When I drop the mast, the cable is long enough to lock in the fork. Okay, and Bill is new to catamarans and sailing. Great to have you on board, Bill. You're in for a great time. And yes, rigging the boat can be one of the biggest pains at first. But basically, with the 16, here's the top of the mast. Here's a bit more of the mast. Here is the fork that locks the sail up. And yeah, so what you're saying is sometimes when you get to about here, the halyard jams in the fork. The way to get around that, when you're hoisting your sail, few things you can do to make it easier on yourself. First one, just to give you a full answer, first thing you could do to make it easier is to wash or get wet the front edge of the sail before you start hoisting it. Because when you get water on the front edge of the sail, it acts like a lubricant, making it much easier to pull it up. Second thing you could do, and the most fundamentally important thing, is make sure the boat is into the wind. So the boat is pointing directly into the wind. That is going to have the biggest effect on making it easier to get your mainsail up. Okay, and then when you get to this, and the third thing to make it easier with a 16 especially is if it is jamming a lot at the bottom, then rather than just pulling it and feeding it in, like pulling it into the mast, actually take the bottom of the sail, one hand either side, pull it into the mast, push it up as much as you can, and then take the slack out of the halyard. That is a much easier way of getting the sail up. And then if this is jamming, what it means is you need to be pulling the halyard from further forwards. So you need to be right here, which would generally be about halfway between the front beam and the front of the boat to pull the mast, to pull the halyard up. Usually standing between the hulls is the easiest spot there. There we go. All right, and no further questions, please. Oh, sorry. Oh, this is another tip on the same topic. Chris says, I aggressively rub the bolt rope with plain white candle wax. He says it makes the sail almost hoist itself. That sounds pretty good. I'm going to try that tomorrow, actually, Chris. That is a great tip. We like that. Yeah, we're all, every day's a school day, but let's do it. Everyone get your candle wax out. Okay, next. All right, so no further questions, please. We're almost up to an hour. Next question. This one comes from JR, and he says, what do you think the maximum weight is of the mast and crossbar of a Hobie 14 with a dolphin striker before you cause damage JR really wants to add a second trapeze line. Ooh. Well, firstly, the mast and the beam should be able to handle a fair bit of load, because a more recent boat, the Hobie Dragoon, which was built for children, that's got the same mast section as the Hobie 14, so quite a small mast section, and it's got the similar beam section as well, but without the curve in it, which effectively you'd think would probably make it less strong. So the 14 front beam should be very strong, so you should be able to handle at least as much weight as you're putting out on the trapeze on a Hobie Dragoon. So I wouldn't go, I'd say yes, give it a go with the double trapeze, but you want to have a maximum crew weight on the trapeze of, I would say, about 140 kilos, which is 280 pounds, something like that. I think something like that. 280 pounds, 240 kilograms. Don't go much more than that. Or if you do, it wasn't me that told you to do it if you break something. Thank you very much. Good question. We have to put those little disclaimers in. Okay, next one. This is another preloaded one. Is from Ripmax333, who says, I wonder how far the boat goes with that 18 knots wind speed without holding the main sheet. Oh, and he's saying, I think this question came in before I made the last jumping off the boat video, which proves that in that kind of wind strength, the boat is most likely to capsize, or at least capsize after a short time. And Ripmax333 says, why don't you use some sort of line, pardon me, to attach yourself to the boat? The reason that I don't like the idea of attaching myself to the boat with a line is because if you did capsize and end up in a compromising position, it is one more thing that you could get caught up in. It could get tied around your feet or around your neck. It could tie you to a part of the boat. It's something else which is more likely to get you stuck in a position where you don't want to be stuck. That is why I'm not into it. There we go. I think that's as much of an answer as we need there.
Oh yeah, put off an arm or leg.
Well, yeah.
Bit of that look.
Many options. All right. We are getting there. All right. Next one. Let's go back to live. So we've got David. Hello, David. David's just got a Tornado Mark 1, new to you. Very nice. Well done. Great choice. We are having trouble tacking smoothly. The boat stalls out just as we get to the wind. Not really sure what we're doing wrong. Okay, so here we go. Tacking. This is the same for any catamaran, but because the Tornado is so wide, it does require a certain amount of finesse and technique to get it to go through the wind. Because the hulls are so far apart, when we're turning them, one of the hulls is going a lot further than the other hull, which does cause a bit of resistance. So the first thing we want to do before we go to tack is make sure we are sailing as close to the wind as possible. So if it's we're going to be judging how far to go towards the wind, we'll get the jib in tight, and then we'll just sail the boat up towards the wind, just until, if it's quite windy, until the front of the jib just starts flapping slightly, or if it's less windy, we'll make sure that the telltales on the jib are both flying straight back. We're not going to do a refresher in telltales just now because the clock is ticking. But first thing, sail as close to the wind as possible. Second thing, possibly, I think these are equally important actually, but the thing where most people go wrong is what are you doing with the main sheet? The most important thing when you're tacking is what are you doing with the main sheet? I know I'm just contradicting what I just said, but it is. So before we go into the tack, the main sheet has to be tight, like really tight, like all the way in. So just before you tack, really crank the main sheet in. If it's windy and that means your hull starts coming out of the water, then you can actually turn the boat more towards the wind to take that power away. And at the same time, you're going to be reducing your tacking angle. So it's a win-win. There we go. Crank the main sheet in. If you've been sailing with your traveller out, pull your traveller in a bit as well. With a tornado, definitely get the traveller up to the centre line before you tack. That's going to help as well. And then before you initiate the tack, take the main sheet out of the cleat, but hold it, then push the stick away, initiate the turn, kind of think about sailing the boat up into the wind. Don't just ram the rudders across as hard as they'll go, because that will just basically act like the brake's going on. Instead, steer the boat up into the wind nice and smoothly. As soon as the jib backs, so when we say the jib backs, if we're not familiar with this term, that will happen when we're pointing directly into the wind. So we've gone from here, we've turned up here, and then the jib will back, which means the wind will come into the other side of the jib. And then as soon as the jib's backed, that's when we want to do everything else. So the list of jobs, number one, totally release the main sheet. Just let go of the rope, let it go out. The more main sheet that you let out, the more likely it is that your tack is going to succeed. Okay, next thing, move across the boat. And then as soon as you've moved across the boat, you can then look forwards, look at what's going on. The crew can then bring the jib across and off we go. There we go, tacking. That should really help. Okay, Bill, who's new to cat sailing, says, is there blocks used to raise a Hobie 16 main halyard? No, it's just basically one line going up to the top of the mast, same line comes down the front. That is all you get. All right, just going to go back to the preloaded questions. Once again, no further questions, please. No, it's probably time for a pint, isn't it? Let's be honest. Okay, this one's from Willis. Oh, I like this one. In the preloaded, the lower block on the main sheet with the cleat, there's a company in Texas who make them for $90. That is cheap. Then it jumps up to about $300, probably for the Harkins. Any recommendation on saving cost while getting a reasonable quality? It's not racing, just want to go fishing, lovely, into it, and make it easy. Plus we have great whites here sometimes. And will the cheaper alternatives work? They have zero comments on quality, but it seems silly to spend as much as the boat and trailer on a few bits and pieces. Willis, I agree. If you're sailing quite an inexpensive boat, to then double the price of the boat by buying a new set of blocks is ridiculous. Hold on, I've got something for you to see here. Right, I'm just coming. I haven't left.
Do you want to drink that?
I'm not until I've finished, I reckon. Might get warm, you know me.
I know.
Yeah, I've got some soft drink. Okay, so this is actually a brand new set of Hobie 16 blocks, and this is the industry standard bottom block for the Hobie 16. This is a Harken, can't remember what exactly it's called, but with the switchable ratchet. Very nice. A new one of these in the States, I believe, will set you back something like $230 for this block. And this is, for a 16, this is the best block you can put on there for the main sheet. Incidentally, this is 8mm Mattioli Swift cord on here. This is a nice set of blocks. That's a nice set of blocks. Yeah, good color as well. All right, I'm just going to get a different alternative. I'm coming back. Oh, here we go. Is this the seashore? Oh, this is a sail speed. Okay, this is a rather dusty looking sail speed. It's got switchable ratchet. There would usually be a cleat on here, but it's been taken off. Switchable ratchet. And for your purposes, Willis, this is going to be absolutely fine. If you're not sailing in heavy winds, you're not really going to notice that much difference. So this is called Sail Speed, the brand of this one. What I would say is don't always just opt for new. I think in America, their eBay is massive. Massive?
Marketplace.
Is it?
Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, Bill saying Facebook Marketplace is a really good place to look for stuff like this, and you can really pick up some bargains. I recently got a whole set of 8-to-1 Harken main sheet blocks with rope, both blocks £120. So keep an eye on second-hand stuff, because that, I'd say, that is what you want to be doing rather than going to a chandlery and looking at getting a new one. If you are looking at going to a chandlery in the US online, check out Murray's. Use the discount code, which is in all my videos. You'll see it in the description, and that means apparently you'll get a free t-shirt, and they'll say, Joyrider TV. There we go. All right, so hope everybody's having a lovely time, by the way. If you are finding there is some valuable information coming out of this session, please give the like button a little tickle right now. I just want to see it move. We're currently on 12. Come on, first person to hit the like button wins a warm glow inside. No, still on 12. Still on 12, guys. Oh, 16. Thank you very much. All right. All right. Second question from David. Do people replace standing rigging on small cats with Dyneema? I'm replacing the mast boom lever thing. Oh, that's called the mast spanner. The thing that controls the mast rotation. Thought it might be worth doing. Yeah, it's definitely worth replacing your standing rigging on the catamaran. Most people are using wire still for the catamaran rigging, but there are people that are using the Dyneema ropes for the standing rigging. There is a place in Texas called, I believe, Coriolis Marine, or something like that, who is specializing in Dyneema rigging for your mast. So there we go. It is something that people do, but wire is still the standard. All right. Let's go back to another preloaded one. We have got D. Brahma, who says, do you use a cut piece of old mast to reinforce where on the mast where the jib block is riveted. How is that block riveted on? Okay, so I believe here we're talking about what's called the Aussie jib halyard system. Now, unfortunately, because I'm broadcasting from the laptop computer, I can't exactly take you out into the boat park and have a look at one, but I'll draw a picture. So with these blocks for the Aussie jib halyard system, if we look side on, we've got the block, which is kind of like this. And then that block has got like a backing piece on it. It's kind of like an all-in-one kind of job, which is sort of like this. And then it's pretty straightforward. This is just riveted into the mast, 4 rivets, easy. With any time when you're riveting stainless steel or inox, same thing, isn't it? It's just different.
Yeah, there is
subtle difference. Because here in Greece, they always call it inox.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just, it looks and smells and tastes the same. Yeah. Okay, so when riveting or attaching stainless steel or inox to your aluminium mast, you have to use some sort of barrier paste like Sudocrem, but probably not Sudocrem. But probably work for a bit.
Yeah, a nylon shim or something.
Or a nylon shim between, because otherwise you get a chemical reaction between the two, which basically eats away at the aluminium. Very important. So that's just a rivet. That's the easiest answer of the day. I like that one. All right, back to the live. All right, we've got Iggy, or I think that'd be Iggy Valaki, off topic. I like your English so much. You should be teaching it. Love the accent, the tempo, very clear and enjoyable. Thanks very much. Yeah, nice. Yeah, just to let you know how it's evolved is because I've been teaching sailing here in Greece for a very long time, for more than half of my life. And I've been teaching sailing to a lot of people who English isn't their first language. So I really appreciate trying to make what I say understandable to everybody that I speak to, because if I just go into very fast, slangy English, then I might as well not bother, because a lot of people aren't going to understand. So there we go. Thanks very much. I appreciate that. All right, next one. No further questions, please, by the way. 21 likes. We're up now. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. 23 people watching. That's almost everyone. I reckon someone's got this on in the background at work. All right. Anybody watching at work right now? All right. We've got Panasonic, who says, hello, I'm in Hong Kong. A beginner for sailing. I'm planning to buy a catamaran. Could you comment about inflatable? Yes, I could. And I've been in touch with the guys at Minicat. I am desperately trying to get hold of a Minicat out here, any one of the range. I like the look of the 420, which is their kind of standard Minicats, an inflatable catamaran, very small, but really, really, what's the word? Practical. It fits in a bag, and then you can pretty much put the whole catamaran in the boot of your car. How good is that? But Panasonic's in Hong Kong.
Oh,
what do you call that? In the trunk. Yeah. Yeah. So I am definitely into the inflatable revolution that's coming up. Hopefully at some point the guys at Minicat are going to give me a boat to try out here, and we're going to try it in light winds. We're going to try it for going to another beach, and then we're going to try it in the Champagne strong winds in the afternoon and see what it's like flying a hull and going fast. But any of the Minicat boats look really good, and I would say yes, yes, and thrice yay. Okay, thanks. I'm not sure about the other brands, but I'm sure they're equally good, but I just don't know as much about them. Germans fan. Hi, guys. Smiley face. Great to have you on board. All right, Jeff says, yes, trapeze wires can be swapped out by Dyneema. So light, and it floats. Yeah, so the trapeze wires I wouldn't call standing rigging, but yes, we're using Dyneema as the trapeze wires out here as well. And the great thing is you can make your own. Isn't that good? And here we go. Let's have a look what's in the box. This is a video that I started making about 2 months ago. This has been sent to me by Martin at Malcheski Composites. And this is actually a really nice Dyneema splicing kit. If you want to get one, check out his website. I think it's malcheskicomposites.com. You get a shaped chopping block, which means you chop it at the right angles. A whole rack of fids and needles. Oh, yes. I basically haven't made the video yet because I don't feel just yet like I'm an expert in this area. Fid me up, baby. There's that's a rack of fids there. And some very sharp razor blades. Watch yourselves on those, kids. And then here is one I made earlier. So I just did this as an example. I took some 2.5mm Dyneema, and then using the Malcheski Composites Fid splicing kit, I've done this. And this would be one end of your trapeze line. Made it myself. Can you believe that? And it was quite satisfying and enjoyable. Liked it. So yes, let's have some Dyneema trapeze lines. There you go. That's one I made earlier. I think that's some good work there. I watched quite a few other people's videos to work out how to do it. All right, we've got Colonel Failure on board. Always at work, he says. Yes, I am. That happens to be my brother who, if you like this style of delivery, but you're into video games, then head over to Colonel Failure's channel and see what he's up to there. He gives me a lot of advice, by the way, on the YouTube stuff, and I very much appreciate it very much. All right, back to another preloaded question. All right, so we've got another one from Willis, who says, do you have a recommendation for a trapeze setup? I need absolutely everything if I'm going to go for it and give it the beans. I've seen rope setups instead of wires. Oh, we're just talking about that. Can you believe it? The rope setup. Different vests, but I always wear a life preserver. Very good. All right. Yeah, so you could either use, like we're saying, Dyneema trapeze wires or the more traditional wire trapeze wires. What else? So you're going to need that. You're then going to need some trapeze gear. Have I got any in here? Have I got any gear in here? No, is the answer. Oh, off a boat? No, no, it's all right. Yeah, I'm not going to take one apart just now. Not in the 11th hour of the video of the live. Yeah, so you're going to need some trapeze gear, but I have made quite a few videos on that. So check out the index of videos. There'll be a link to the index in the description below, so have a look there. And then you're going to need a trapeze harness. You're not going to believe it, but today I actually received a new trapeze harness. It's not a Magic Marine smart harness, and I didn't like it as much. Now that is because I've been using the same trapeze harness for the last 15 years, and to change to a different, still a Magic Marine, but it didn't give me as much. The other one was like, it was almost like a part of me. The new one was like a part of someone else that I was trying to make a part of me. Felt a bit weird. So there you go.
Any more questions do you have?
All right, let's see. There's one more. Okay, and then Willis, the last bit of your question, should you put it over the top or underneath your life preserver? That is a massive question. The trend is underneath, because there may be a time when you need to take your life jacket, life preserver or buoyancy aid off, which you don't want to have to take off your trapeze harness as well to do that. But the other school of thought is if you have your trapeze harness over the top of your buoyancy aid or life preserver, it means if you go into the water, the buoyancy aid doesn't come up around your ears. It definitely stays down. But what I would say, buoyancy aid over the top, wearing the smallest buoyancy aid you can get into, because you want your buoyancy aid to be tight. That's what I would say. All right. Very good. Thanks for your questions there, Willis. All right. Christopher says, took the day off when I heard you were going live. Nice. Good on you, Christopher. Good choice. All right. Stephen is at work and he's on the end of a microscope. Ooh, interesting. All right. Christopher says, how is Dyneema in the sun with the UV? I think it does fade quite a lot over time, but it seems to retain its strength quite nicely. What does Barry think?
Yeah, we have the same sort of sun in Florida. It doesn't.
Yeah, I think it would last about the same as wire. And the nice thing with Dyneema is you're going to get some warning before it breaks. Whereas with wire rigging, you're not going to get any warning at all, because most of the breakage is right at the crimp where you can't really see what's going on. All right, Jeff says, I like this. Well done, Joe, for making that Dyneema sample. Yeah, love making my rope improvements too. Me too. All right. Oh, here we go. Jeff says, no issue with Dyneema in the sun in Asia. We're toasting here. All right, wicked. All right. And last preloaded question now. Oh, this is a juicy one. This is from Piotr, who I'm guessing is probably in Poland. He says, what is the best and easiest way to hook the mainsail at the top of the mast on a Hobie 18? Bought a Hobie a few weeks ago and have the same problem every time. Can't release the main to pull it down after sailing. Maybe 2 times. Yeah, okay. So this is quite a common problem. Oh yeah, I've got one here. Hold on. So the Hobie 18 system of holding the mainsail up, this is the same as on a great many boats. So most F-18s, on the Dart 18, on the Tornado, all the same. It's using a ring with an inbuilt shackle type fitting. This goes onto the top of the mainsail. This would be attached to the main halyard. And then at the top of the mast is going to be a hook like this. The ring goes up past the hook. When you put it down, boom, hooks on. And then you've got a very, very secure system of holding the sail up. Nice. Now, hooking these in is generally pretty easy. It's usually just a case of hoisting the sail with the mast straight. That's going to go up and it's going to catch nice. If it ever doesn't catch, then, oh, Bosjan's in Slovenia. Julia Kokosi. That's my Slovenian, by the way. If it ever doesn't catch, just try when you get to the top, rotating the mast slightly, and maybe that is going to engage it better. Now, when it comes to dropping the sail, there are a few things that are going to make it easier. First one, make sure that the boat, the sail, and the wind are all in line, and the mast, which means here's the wind coming from the top, boat, pointing straight into the wind, mast straight into the wind, sail straight into the wind, because this is the same for anything which you have to pull the sail up to get it down. This means that you're going to have the minimum amount of friction when you go to pull the sail up. If you've got the mast round, or if the mast is like this and the sail is like this, that is a ton of friction and you're not going to be able to pull the sail up enough. Okay, first thing. Second thing, release, take the downhaul off the bottom of the sail and then push the bottom of the sail up the mast track a bit to make sure it's not going to catch. Third thing, then we pull the sail up, so this will come off the hook, but then we want to make sure it's not going to go back on. So then what we need to do is rotate the mast. Now, this is the tricky bit. There are 4 ways that we can rotate the mast. We can rotate the mast either to port or to starboard, and we can either rotate it a little bit or a lot. So I would generally start off by rotating it to starboard a little bit with the mast in that position, pull the sail down. If it doesn't come down, then get back to this starting position and try again. Maybe the second time, pull the sail up, rotate the mast a lot to starboard, pull the sail down as hard as you can. If it doesn't come, of course, if you're rotating the mast a lot, there's going to be more friction. You are going to have to pull it down more, but all the boats are a little bit different. So you can't say one rule fits everything. And then, of course, if that doesn't work, try the other way. The other thing that you could look at is which way is the knot on the ring. If it is tied on with a bowline, that's not so good because you won't be able to pull it up as far. So what you want to use is a lazy kite surfer knot. Can I just grab the end of this? Which, this rope is massive, but it's to hand. So what we're going to do is tie a thumb knot in the end, and then we're basically going to do the same on to here. This is a very reliable knot, and you should be using like a 5mm rope. This is 8 to tie that on there. So it might affect it if it's that way round or that way round when you go to put the sail up initially. Okay, so something else you can look at. The last thing you can look at is before you rig the boat, take a look up the mast and see if the halyard is kind of hooked over the hook at the top. So I think that should be enough to go on. There's some options there. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So I think, yeah, that's all of the preloaded questions. We'll just finish this off. All right. Dan says, I was watching your mast rake video and one question, can I change the jib tack connection to change the mast rake? No, I wouldn't do that. I would always keep the jib tack fairly low down. You want to, if it's to 16, you want to change the mast rake just by loosening the jib halyard, and then if you want it tight, the rig tighter, move the shrouds down. We're in short, very short answers now. Been going for an hour and a half. No more questions, please. All right, Iron Horse.
Exactly an hour and a half.
What's the biggest boat you've ever sailed, ever crossed an ocean? I've never crossed an ocean, no. Biggest boat I've ever sailed. I've sailed a few yachts, which were maybe 40 feet long, but that was a long time ago. All right, yeah, Boss Jan, yeah, I did answer your question earlier on in the session. This video will be uploaded as soon as I've finished, and then after, I don't know if it's immediate or after about an hour or so, then you should be able to look through the whole thing. I will be indexing the video probably tomorrow morning. So after that, then you'll know exactly when all the different questions were answered. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. And Iggy, I'll probably try a cat soon. I want to skip lessons as I've been attending the Joyrider Academy. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it, Barry?
That was my starting point.
Yeah. But we could do Joyrider Academy. What do we think? $50 a month membership fee, and I'll take all the videos off YouTube. That'll be the only place you can find them. No, it's all right. I'm not going to do that. Not just now. What are your top 3 tips for a first timer? I have some sailing skills. Oh, that's a question. Top 3 tips is most important thing. It's meant to be fun. So if it's not fun, you're doing it wrong. And one thing that can suck the fun out of it is the frustration with stalling the catamaran or not being able to get it going. If you ever can't get your catamaran going, first thing you should go to the main sheet, let the main sheet off, and you're more likely to be able to get going. Third tip, keep it safe. If you're just getting used to it, really check the weather forecast. Don't try to go out in too much wind too soon. Start off with light wind, build yourself up to the stronger wind. I would say keep it under 10 knots of wind, especially for your first 5 or so times out, and really get used to the boat and then build it up. There we go. All right, last question from Bosjan. In Slovenia, where are you located in Greece? Wild Wind is located on the island of Lefkas in the village of Vasiliki. There are a lot of Slovenian people coming here, by the way. And yes, you can come down here, and yes, you can do some sailing, and yes, it will be really good fun. Okay, so there we go. That is all we've got time for. We actually ran out of time half an hour ago, but never mind. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll be back next week with some more of this. And I think that's about the size of it, isn't it? Thanks to everybody on Patreon who are supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to check out all the other videos from this week. There's some really good stuff there. And I'll be back. No Show Us Your Cat this weekend, but there'll be some more very exciting videos coming out very soon. So thanks very much, and see you soon on Joyrider TV. Thank you.